Hey everyone, let's jump on in. We've got a lot to cover today. We're going to do an easy single mold swirl. We're going to learn a little bit about different types of colorants, and we're actually going to make a stained glass soap that won't bleed, believe it or not. So we're starting off. This soap is for a good friend of mine. Hi Heather. And I just want to show using liquid dyes and some things to look out for when you're using liquid dyes. We're using the lemon yellow, and the reason I brought that other one up to the camera is I wanted you to make sure you notice there's a difference between lemon yellow and lemon lime, brilliant lemon lime. Oh, there's my first spill. Woohoo! They're quite different in colors in the way the colors work, and I'll show you the lemon lime later. It's really cool, but it's just not for this soap. This one I'm using the Satsuma, if you saw my fragrance oil, which is already a bit on the yellow side. So being an orangey type scent, we're going with orange. Right now you see a little accent of green, which can be yucky when you combine it with orange, but this one tends to work. Notice I'm using the green I'm using is mica, and there's quite a lot of mica in that. It's fairly dense. And now I'm choosing apple red stained glass colorant. There are other types of colorants like this, liquid dyes. As long as they are for soap, they are fine. I'm telling you the colorant names for the liquid stained glass dye from Wholesale Supplies Plus, because that's what I have and that's what I prefer to use for this type of soap and many others. There's so many uses. The blue that I use for bluing is among them. If you haven't seen my short on that, I have a little demo. I used the apple red to go with that lemon yellow because the other reds are a little bit more pink, and they're going to give you a peach tone, which is not what I was going for with this soap. And as we get closer to my recommendations for what to purchase, these liquid dyes, they have samples that are $1.09 a piece. You can't go wrong with that because they last a very long time. So here's my little accent of the Maniacal Pea from Mad Mica. Yes, the orange will bleed, and it will bleed into the soap surrounding the mica. It won't change the color of the mica, but it will change the color of the soap a little bit. You'll see even now it looks a little it's got a little orange or rust tint to it. But because the mica is fairly thick in here, and you'll see when I unmold these that it falls to the bottom a little bit. It tends to still show the green. I'm kind of just playing with other with other liquid soap dyes right now. I'll jump in when I have to, but I wanted to get back to that little swirl because I didn't get to say, it goes too fast. I didn't get to say that the reason that swirl works so well, it's not a suspending base. It's not a swirling base. That's just premium crystal clear. Crafter's Choice premium crystal clear, which is what I use for most things. The reason it works is because the temperature was really, really low. The orange was at about 125, 124, something like that. And the green was way lower. It was getting close to that point where it might have jellied up a little bit and been too thick to pour. But then I nuked it for just a couple of seconds. Yes, you can nuke things for just a couple of seconds. I'm going to pause on that thought real quick because this is the lemon lime, the brilliant lemon lime. I don't think the camera shows it enough, but it is like day glow green. It's like the liquid version of tennis ball breaker from Mad Micas. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. If you mix it with, not mix it, but if you try to swirl it with other colors, or it's going to color the rest of the soap. It's going to bleed into it. So be aware of that. There are times when you might want that look. I use the liquid dyes in my crystal soaps all the time, and I use it very strategically if I don't mind if the colors migrate. It can actually work really well for you. You'll see a demo later where it sort of works, but it wasn't what I wanted. And so that's why we're doing a stained glass version. Most of this demo here that I'm showing you the different colors, I kind of wanted you to see the differences between the reds and the yellows and as they mix. That red there, that's the apple red. It works really well for oranges and peaches and bright. It's almost an orangey red, bright type mixes you're doing. Not as much when you're trying to make purple. It does work, but it kind of negates a lot of the other color of the blue. It kind of offsets it, as you'll see with the purples I've made. You'll see when they're set up, because I do show you the difference between them. When I'm making a purple, I find the reds with the more pink tone seem to work a lot better, which would be the strawberry red and Santa red. Either one of those. Strawberry is a little more purple than the Santa red. Santa red's kind of like a mix between the two. Anyway, here's the result. I didn't swirl that one just because I ran out of the green, and I said, well, I'll just use that one for myself because it smells like satsuma, and that's amazing. See how nice that swirled? It comes out beautiful if the temperature is right, and if you don't play with it too much. That's an issue I have sometimes, and to learn to leave it alone at the right time. And if you see you could have the top be either side, but where on the bottom where the mica tends to fall a little bit because it's a little heavier, it accents where the green is. I like that look a little bit better. I'm showing you this because these bottles, well, I do recommend them for use for people who like to use liquid dyes. They're messy. The big bottles are very, very messy. What you just saw there were the samples, and they're $1.09. You really, again, can't go wrong with that. So, yeah, that's just showing you what it would have looked like if I had not chosen the colors I chose for that orange. So that's the strawberry and the apple red next to each other. That is the purple that was made with the more pink one, the strawberry red, and that one right there was the apple red. So it kind of dulled the color, as you see. It's still pretty, kind of looks like a lilac, but it's just not as brilliant. And here is proof that these colors will bleed. That is really pretty. It's a stained glass soap, and I love the way it looks. You see the glitter, you see how clear it is. I love the design. I was really, really proud of that one like 2 years ago when I made it. It's still so see-through and transparent, but this was my original design. I like both of them, but I was going for individual colors, and it just didn't stay. It stayed for a good maybe 8 months, so I was actually surprised by that. I had in my head, even though I knew they bled, I had it in my head that they wouldn't cross the barrier of the black frame. I don't know why. What you're seeing now, this is just a quick demo. It's a little bit of a throwback to my tie-dye soap, which I recently posted. I just want to show you a little bit about pigments because I don't do a lot with that in this video, but it's listed in the title. Because my main takeaway from pigments, first of all, you really want a good brand. And yeah, and my spill. I have to show it again because it was a fun one. Flinging things is apparently what I do. Most neon colorants you're going to get are a pigmented color, and you can get others that are pigmented. They're kind of grainy. Can you see the little grains in there? You really have to stir. And I like using, this is an enormous bath bomb bowl or bath bomb mold, but I like it because the inside is a little rough. And it helps kind of grind them up a little bit. This one is actually the best one I've found. These are the Mad Micas. It's one of the things that brought me to Mad Mica is it's finer than many and easier to stir in. So that's the only reason I was showing that. And just quick to tell you that pigments you're not going to get transparency out of that, or not very much anyway. And that you'd have to use such a tiny amount. I'm not sure how well it would color it. Feel free to experiment, but if you're looking for really transparent, you might want to look elsewhere. So now I'm going with that whole thought of transparency because I'm trying to redesign stained glass soaps so they don't bleed, because I know you've seen, well, I don't know. You may have seen many tutorials using liquid dye because they're beautiful. You saw the brilliant colors that you get with them, but they will eventually bleed. So right here, I want to show that you can get a transparent color using mica. The key to this, and there's my second spill, maybe my third by now. I don't know, I've lost count. The key to getting a transparent look that still has the color shows fairly brilliantly is to choose a brilliant mica. You don't want to use a pale yellow mica thinking you're going to get much color with the tiny amount that you can add to keep it transparent. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. Because you really need to use a small amount, which means a more saturated hue, a brilliant, bright colored mica. I wouldn't go too dark. I mean, you can. You're just going to lose some of the transparency with some of the darker colors. And maybe if you want to use a navy, I hadn't even thought about trying that, but I bet the spacewalk would be gorgeous to make a sparkly navy, but you'd have to use such a tiny amount, and just be really aware that the more you add, the more transparency you lose. I'm kind of showing you a little bit of a stirring technique for micas. As you saw, the first one, I used alcohol. Used 70% alcohol. I use 99% for some things and 70% for others. But usually for stirring in, I use 70%. I did it on the first one, and I had planned to keep doing that, but I got soap that dripped from the spout into my little bowl there, and so I didn't want to put mica and alcohol in hardened soap. So you see what I'm doing here is I spray with, I put a tiny amount. Of course, that's for the technique as well. A small amount. This wouldn't work if you're putting spoonfuls of mica in. It's not going to stir in as well. It can stir in for sure. You'd just be stirring for a long time, creating bubbles, and you may end up with lumps, which I've done before. And if you stir it long enough and possibly reheat it a little, it'll be fine. But when you're using a tiny amount, all you need to do is spritz the top of the soap after you put it in, and then just lightly kind of drag it across the top. What you're doing with that is you're helping it to disperse in the amount in the alcohol that spreads across the top when you spritz it. And if you just kind of, I don't want to say fling again, I keep saying fling, but if you just kind of drag it a little bit across the top, it helps it to disperse more quickly. And if you see, there's really not any lumps left. I think maybe one in this one, but anyway, it does stir in eventually, way more quickly than if you were just dumping it in, not spritzing it, and letting it sink to the bottom or pushing it to the bottom when you stir. If you stir it in too quickly, it'll do that. It just kind of let it float on top. It's neat looking too, but it's really helpful. Stirs it in better than just dumping it in. Okay, so got several colors going on. What you saw me add in that last one was a sparkling mica. I cannot pronounce for the life of me. Maybe if I practiced. There's a name for that type of mica. Almost every company I know that sells micas makes some. They're beautiful. They're beautiful in soap. They're really safe in soap, safe in the bath and in the water. They're not large enough particles to cause problems. They're eco-friendly. And as you see there, you just need a tiny amount. If you add, I love the look of a lot of glitter, trust me. But if you do that, you're going to end up taking away from some of the transparency. Like I'm doing right here. I made a big mistake here. Not a big mistake. I could have done it better. I am very critical of myself. And it's not that these soaps turn out really, really pretty, I think, in my opinion. But I'm not even upset with myself, really. I just know I could have done it better. When I added that Blue Moon mica, another Mad Micas one, yes, I am an affiliate, and I will have an affiliate link if you wish to order through there. I will get a small commission. at this time, I don't have any coupon codes to share with you. I'm just really new at this. So I don't know what I'm doing. When I get a coupon code, I will share it. But what that beautiful iridescent mica does is add this luminescence that's just stunning. But it also adds adds some opacity, so it takes away from the transparent look a little bit. If I had been thinking ahead, I would have kept the blue separate, and then in a separate container put the Blue Moon mica, and then kind of swirled it in like you saw me do with the orange soap that we made at the beginning, and it would have been kind of a swirl, which would look really cool in a stained glass soap. I do that later. I do make a little bit of a swirl, which does show up in some of the stained glass soaps, so I'll point it out at the end. You'll see I think it's the last. It's one of the last ones that I pour for colorants, for the stained glass anyway. Okay, so this is not the, well, yeah, that's actually the last of the traditional types of micas. This next one we're going to do is I leave the soap clear, and I don't know if you noticed, I just keep pouring from the same bucket. That's because I have made a big bucket with the proper amount of fragrance, and I just keep pouring from that. It keeps it warmer. It's easier to heat up when I need to. So this is another one of the sparkling micas. This one is Sparkle Sunshine. I love this mica. I really usually refer to it as glitter, because to me it's just glitter. It looks like glitter. It behaves like glitter. It's a little lighter weight than some, so you want to be careful pulling it out. If you're using it frequently, you probably want to wear a mask when you're using it. If you use just a touch, you're going to get this beautiful, beautiful sparkle to it. And if you wait a little bit to pour it, like I did, it was kind of cooling by the time I poured it. It wasn't sticky or anything yet. It wasn't even really super viscous, but it won't sink to the bottom, like, and it floats a little easier than some micas, no matter what the temperature. But if you pour it hot, it's going to sink to the bottom. So what you're seeing here, this is the fun stuff. I wanted to, I'll say introduced to you, but I know there's other soapers out there that have made videos. That's how I found it in the first place. And then another soap maker in the soap group helped me find the name of it and where it is. I just knew it existed, but I didn't know how to find it. It's so cool. It's not cheap, and it's not easy to find. I will leave a link. Zenicolor, that's what it's called, or Zenicolor. I don't know. I don't know the pronunciation, but Zenicolor, Zenicolor. It's really cool colorant. You see how clear this is. I know it looks like toothpaste. I keep thinking that every time I squirt it out. You see how clear this is. This is just as clear, maybe even clearer, because the colors are so brilliant and bright. I don't know. Gives the appearance of being clearer than the liquid dyes. The thing is, this will not bleed. You can put two colors right next to each other in a swirl, in a layer. It's not going to bleed. It won't bleed into other micas. It won't bleed into anything. It just doesn't bleed. It's like I said, it's not cheap. So I've been really stingy with it because I'm really cheap. So you won't see me use it really often, although I do have a couple of soaps in mind coming up that I want to use it for. But I'm tending to be a little more hoardish with these. Hoard-ish. Make sure that came out correctly. I thought this was the one. I do squirt some onto the table accidentally. I may have cut that out of the video, but it was kind of funny. It's not super easy to get out, but once you kind of get the feeling of it, you have to kind of mush them a little bit and mix it a little. It might have separated in shipping a little as you're going. When you first get them, so you just mush them around every once in a while. I do that every time I use them, since I don't use them very frequently. They sit there, but they're still good. I've had them for quite a while now. I forget where they come from. I think I ended up finding a source in Canada, distributor, I believe, but I'll leave the link. Anyway, the colors are superb. They're they're you depending on how bright you want the color, you have to use more to get the colors you see me pouring now. I had to use quite a bit, but I wanted the colors to be very bright, and I wanted to kind of show them off a little bit since some of you may not have seen them before. So you see that sometimes it looks like it's not going to stir in, and then it does, so keep stirring. If for some reason it doesn't, after you give it a good solid try, pop it in the microwave for just a few seconds. I don't mean the dye by itself. In your soap, if it's not stirring in well, just like a few seconds. 5 seconds is probably more than enough. You just want to heat it a tad. As an soap artist, I don't even know words today. I frequently like to use very tiny amounts in heating things up because the temperature is so important. I'm always checking it. I've got to make sure it's right for what I'm doing. So you'll see me do that a lot and like burst it in for 5-10 seconds. I'm not one of these people to just set a timer on their microwave for 30 seconds and do that every single time. I can't do it. I don't want to overheat it. Sometimes you'll see me heat things to temperatures that are a little higher than what you'd think, but I've been hopefully sharing all that with you along the way. I'm just mixing. You can mix any color combination that you want here. I may, if you're interested, do a color blending video where we talk about, how you get different blends. I know some may think it's a little elementary, but if you're a brand new beginner and you haven't done it very often, it can be a little confusing, and you might think you are mixing two colors together to get one, and you get something completely different. Like with some of the reds, if the shade is not correct or the hue is not exactly what you think it is. One of the cool things about this soap, and about this company, the Zenicolor company, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I just love it. I love the soap. I mean the colorant. One of the cool things is it comes with a neat little chart and a little card, and it helps you if you want to blend and to get this color. It tells you to use this much, and the card kind of measures it out for you. You squeeze it onto the card. It's like kind of like a credit card, a little plastic card, and you squeeze it onto that, and the length of the little part you squeeze out is your measuring tool, and it'll tell you 2 parts green to 1 part blue or whatever. I kind of go on my own as fly by the seat of my pants, as I tend to do with a lot of things. But I did use it at first to kind of get a feel for it. I wanted to get a feel for how they blended, and now I just I don't even know if I remember what the little formulas were for the colors. I just kind of go off of instinct. Feel free to do whatever works for you. I did add a little more color. Oh, I did add a little more glitter that I didn't tell you about, and it's a Nurture Soap Mystic Gold, I think is the name of it. I'll leave a link with that, of course. But it's similar to the other kinds of sparkling micas, but it has a little bit of iridescence to it. So the Mystic Gold is iridescent gold. It's white, but it shines a little hint of gold. And they have one that's Mystic Red that has a little pink tint to it, and blue, and I don't know if they have green, but I'll look that up. Okay, so here they come. I'm sorry to pain you through watching me unmold all of these, but I figured there was a lot to talk about with this and wanted to leave myself enough time. I sped through it. I don't do anything that fast. I move pretty slow with things unless it's something where I have to move quickly to get certain embeds in a soap or something like that. So I can move fast on occasion where it suits me. I'm trying right now. What you see me doing there is I'm assessing whether they're solidified. There were a couple in the center that were a little warm, and I didn't want to like shove hard with my fingers and dent them, because you can. if they're still a little bit soft. Usually I let them harden thoroughly, but this was a very long day with a very long filming process to get all of this done. And I was tired. I didn't want to wait any longer, so they were taking long to set up because it was just hot. I live in Florida, so it is just plain hot, even in the AC sometimes. So just when I put the bottle behind that, I'm just trying to show you the clarity. As you can see, the ones that are the clearest are the ones with the Zenacolor, but you can still see right through the ones with the mica. You can create a transparent soap using mica. You just have to really be disciplined about how much you add, and don't go a little crazy like I did with the Blue Moon or other iridescent sparkles or micas or whatever to get an effect, because you're just going to mess with the clarity. You'll see later in the soaps that you can see through the blue. I just know that you'd be able to see through that one soap better. The dark blue that I made, you'd be able to see through it better if I didn't include the Blue Moon or swirled it in like I said I should have done. Too late. Too little, too late. Kind of in this little segment, and I don't bore you with it too long, I'm just lining up my color palettes. I'm just bringing together the kinds of colors I'm going to use as I go. Everything here is flying by the seat of my pants in the designs. I wanted them to be basically abstract designs, as the last one I did was very specific. Those angels I made took me some time to design on paper and figure out the measurements and get all that the way I wanted. So these I wanted to change it up a little bit and do abstract designs, which took me longer at this part of the process because I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just, oh yeah, the cutter looks, by the way, if you haven't noticed, the wavy cutter can do some really fun things in the stained glass soaps. But anyway, the designs were just kind of coming one at a time as I pieced things together like puzzles. One thing I will say is this mold that I really do like it, but it's new to me. I got it a while back, but hadn't used it yet. It's a brambleberry mold, that white one that you see off to the side where all those big chunks were. All the Zenacolor and the transparent mica soaps were being formed. It fooled me a little bit. I thought it was a regular rectangle, but it's really a trapezoidal prism, which means if you know what the shape of a trapezoid is, that's what it is when you look at the end of it. I think I pull one up and show you at one point, but it makes it a little more complicated when you're putting these soaps and shapes in to try to get them to form a pattern and still leave room for the black, because that's how you get, if you haven't seen it before, that's how you get the stained glass look. Oh, you see, there I am. I'm showing it. The top side there was narrower than the bottom. So when you cut a corner piece, it's just not going to match up. It's not going to line up very easily. So it was a little tricky, and you see me fiddling a lot with it. I forwarded through a lot, and I cut a lot out and just faded in and out of, here, watch me make a puzzle. You see how I'm trying to leave space between them? That's because that's where the black or which represents the lead. You could probably try them in silver. I haven't done that, but usually stained glass is with a lead that may look silver when it starts, but tarnishes, I'm assuming. I don't know. I haven't seen molten lead. So it's usually a black look for stained glass. So you have to leave edges on the sides of the pieces of soap. You don't want them to touch completely at any place. And I think I do have like one that ends up touching, but for the most part, I was able to keep them apart. You may wonder the outside edge here, why I'm allowing the soap to try to scoot up against the edge. I'm not leaving room for kind of a frame there because I'm about to do that in another mold. I wanted these to be thicker soaps. So I, than what the little pink mold is here. I wanted them to be about that shape, but thicker and a little bit bigger. So that's why I used those, the brambleberry mold, to get the colors to be taller than what they would have been if I used those pink molds, because those are only about 1 inch thick, and I think the brambleberry molds are about 1.5 inches perhaps, which is kind of what I was looking for. So as I'm pouring this, I'm only filling, I'm spilling it everywhere too. As usual, I'm pouring it to the top of that pink mold and letting the top stick out. I could have shaved that off if I wanted to and had a really pretty soap, but no, I didn't want to. I wanted them thicker. So you'll see in a minute, as soon as I unmold these, I'm kind of just giving you an idea of what the patterns look like on a couple of them, because you can see through them at the moment. The black doesn't scoot much underneath. It does a little bit, but I'm about to put them in a larger mold, as you see here. And I'm being very careful at this point to leave an edge around every bit. So those are not, that's where the frame comes in. This is how you make a framed soap. It might not even be stained glass if you just wanted to have a design and frame it. You make them in a different mold, or you could make them in this and cut them up, I guess. But you leave space around them, and then you pour black, and then you cut that apart. So when you're leaving space, you want to leave a little bit more around the inside edges than the outside. You do have to have space on the outside, but a little more on the inside, because when you cut these, you're cutting the frame for 2 soaps. So you cut like right down the middle between the 2 soaps, and you want to have enough of the leaded look or the framed look to cut, and so they both have like enough frame. I don't know if that made any sense. Hopefully. So when I was spritzing the bottom of the mold or in there, because it helps them to slide around. If you didn't know that trick, it helps soap move, like you'll see me doing here while I'm pouring the hot soap. And I do pour this black pretty hot, not hot enough to melt anything, because again, you're not again from this video, but from a past video, I was telling you, if you have larger embeds, it cools the soap pretty quickly, and that the heat will help it all adhere together. So I didn't melt any embeds at all, but I poured this about 133, I think is my usual. I might have been a little higher with this one. But as I'm spritzing, it's helping that soap to flow in between the cracks and crevices. Anytime you're wanting soap to move and flow, it will cool it at the same time, but it will also help it to move. I use that little trick and tip in very fine embeds. If I'm pouring into a little spider mold or something like that, you spritz it with alcohol when you right after you pour, and it helps the soap to move into the smaller parts of the embeds. I'll do, of course, someday an embed video too, and show you that so you can watch and see what I'm talking about. But it's a cool effect that the alcohol has. I use it for many things. Several of you had asked why I spritz it after they're set up, and that's usually just to help show off the clarity. The camera doesn't always pick up the clarity of melt&pour soap. And when you're using a melt&pour soap, you're using it in water, obviously. I mean, I would hope so. So that it becomes very crystal clear when you do that. And so I just want to kind of give people an idea of what it looks like when they're using it, and even in person, and just when you first open it or in the wrap, it's going to be more clear than it is in the camera. Now, as you see, when I unmolded this, looks like it's just a hot mess, doesn't it? Pretty, and I'm not saying that just to like put myself down or something. It's a hot mess, but that's intentional, because the hot mess will be cleaned up. Like I said, I want to get in every crack and crevice. I didn't want any bubbles, and I didn't want any spots missed. So I went ahead and basically covered all of my beautiful designs in black soap. But don't worry, we get rid of that pretty quickly. And, well, I shouldn't say pretty quickly. Some of them we get rid of pretty quickly. And others take a little bit of extra effort, which I was happy to do, because I think the result is worth it. If you haven't learned by now, if you know anything about me, I really like intricate designs, and I like the harder stuff. Call me sick, but I like soaps that take a little bit more work rather than just pour a color or two and be done with it. I like a challenge. I like to keep learning and learning new techniques, and hopefully I can share all of those with you as I do. This part was a little harder. I thought, okay, well, they're a little thicker than my regular soaps, so I'm going to use my Uncle Andy's to shave a little bit off of the side that I poured the black over. And it did work for the most part. It didn't get everything, and there's some that's going to slip under. So I did end up coming back, and you'll see a little bit on here. I come back with a knife like this and shave off the bits of black that are still there. Please don't get the impression that I'm that good with a knife, that I can move that fast. Again, this is really sped up. I'm moving very slowly, actually. But I'm scraping some off. I'm slicing some off. Just depends on the soap and where it is on the soap. After the video I do is done, I clean them up a lot more. Just because I wanted to give you a basic impression of what they're going to look like. That one I think I got pretty much everything. But and that one was my favorite, by the way, pretty much my favorite. I like the ones with those block looks. They look like bricks or clear glass bricks or glass blocks. I love those glass block walls. Oh, my favorite. So these are the designs. I do show you each one. Hope that doesn't bore you too much, but I just wanted you to see what the designs were, since you really didn't get to see them as I was making my skips through here and there. The reveal part of this is fun. At least it was fun for me to see what they look like, because I wasn't sure which ones were going to come out. That was another of my favorites. I love the little triangles. They're really, if you play around with the shapes, they're really not hard to create nice designs. You just have to be patient with yourself and willing to change things out. If you don't like this color, cut a piece that's similar from another color. If you don't like the combo, if something doesn't fit just the way you want it, it's okay to shave a little bit off and see if it fits. To me, that was kind of the fun of it. I like puzzles, though, so there's that. I see it leaves a little bit of marks when you're doing it with a knife, but you can kind of polish those off. I don't have a good soap planer. If I did, I would have used it on these, but I don't. So I ended up just scraping it off. And it did work really well, but someday I'll have a soap planer and be able to do that. I didn't want to keep changing the size on the Uncle Andy's and taking more off that way, because I have it fine-tuned sort of to my loaf soaps, and I like to leave it that way. I know there's you can measure it and bring it back, but it's just, I don't know, I don't like to mess with it too much for changing the sizes. I do every once in a while, and then I'm usually mad at myself because it takes me so long to get it just back to the way I want it. As you see, I cut my soaps typically a little bit thicker than many people. They're usually around 1.5 inches. It's actually, I forget what the actual measurement is. It's a little shy of that or a little above that. I forget which. It's marked somewhere on my measuring tape, because that's the way I double check everything. I do like to measure some things. You'll see me, like I said, I tend to fly by the seat of my pants, but I do eyeball a lot of things once I get the feeling of it and what it should be. As I was measuring to pour those demonstration soaps with each color, I wasn't measuring. I was kind of eyeballing it, and I really, for me, I thought I did a pretty good job. I only over poured one and under poured one, and it was easy to fix, of course. So there's my two favorites. I'm going to bring them up, or two of my favorites. I'll bring them up and show you close. Hopefully you can see the sparkle in that, because it does shine through. You can see where the blue is a little bit, that darker blue is a little bit more translucent than transparent, but it still lets light through. If you have not seen any of my videos before, I appreciate you taking the time to stop by. If you have, thanks for sticking with me. If you got this far, it's fantastic. Please like and subscribe, and you'll find a lot of beginner, intermediate, and advanced tutorials coming up soon. My channel's very new, and so just getting going. So I hope you try these. I think they turned out beautiful, but more importantly, they're never going to bleed. The colors are as they are now, and they will stay that way. Thanks for stopping by. I hope I can help you to become a better soap maker. Thank you so much. Bye.